Today we are going to have fun, right? So kind of in the spirit of rivalry week, we're going to talk to our rival. No, I'm just kidding. Like, we're so small in comparison to Dave Ramsey that would be ridiculous to call us a rival. But he's at least our rival because philosophically, he's very much out of step with the philosophies that we believe in when it comes to building wealth. But I always get riled up and excited. Dave has this way of doing that. I'm sure that's why he's been so successful. He can, like, the people that love him, they just love him. The people like me that see him and I like skin crawls a little bit, like that happens too. He just creates a reaction. One of his worst takes, they're all his worst takes, but this is definitely one of them. And that is that you can go with an 8% retirement withdrawal rate. Just let that sink in. We talk about how ridiculous 4% is. Dave's like, we're going all in with 8.
Okay. So you now have $1,040,000. So the next year you get a rate of return of 12%, 11.5% on the $1,040,000. Mm-hmm. And the next year it'll be, $1,090,000, 1.1, right? And because your nest egg is growing by the rate of inflation, giving you a cost of living raise every year. So as long as you're doing that, you're fine. But there's all these goobers out there who have always put this 4% crap in the market. And I'm just irate right now that we have joined the stupidity.
Why is it that stupid though?
It's too low. It's too low because it's not realistic. You do not need to live on 4% of your money for your nest egg to survive.
Yeah. Even if you did a rate of return of 10% or something.
Yeah. And what it sets up is this guy now, he doesn't think he's got enough money. And he's already got $120,000. He's 30 years old. And he's on a plan. He's on a plan to be very wealthy. And he's worried he's going to have enough money or not.
Yeah.
Because stupid people put out low withdrawal rates. Like if you think you can only pull off 4% off of investments making 12, where the flip is the other 8% going? Well, 4% of it went to inflation. That's where it went. The other 4% is just sitting there. So you are growing your investments instead of living off of them. I'm not destroying the nest egg. I'm not even touching the nest egg. I'm growing the nest egg by leaving 4% in there.
Yeah.
Taking 8 off of a 12 growth rate.
So go a 10% rate of return. Go a little bit more conservative with your rate of return. Go 10%. What would you do with 10%?
Well, then 4 off of that. So 6.
6, yeah. But
why are you going to underinvest?
Yeah.
I mean, this year, the S&P to date
was 10%.
Is 10%. And we're not even at the end of the year yet.
Yeah.
And everybody's talking about how bad the economy is. So, most years mine have done much better than 12. And so
but if you can do your standard of living though, lower than what you need, like if you don't need
it, that's fine.
Yeah.
Like I'm 62, or 63, I'm pulling nothing off of mine.
Right.
Because I don't need it. I still work. I still have an income.
Right.
I don't need any of it. So it's all just sitting there.
But you could do 4%.
The problem is when you go down these stupid nerd rabbit holes in these Reddit threads with these morons who live in their mother's basement with a calculator. And then you put that out into the dadgum community. And then people go, I don't have enough money. It's hopeless. I'll never be able to save enough to retire. $1 million should create for you an $80,000 income, boys and girls. So you should perpetually, forever. You should be able to pull $80,000 forever and never destroy it. Now and so when you tell people that $1 million creates a $40,000 income, you go, oh, I've got to have $2 million and I can't make that. Then this system doesn't work. So what you're doing with this bogus math is you're stealing people's hope.
That was the point I wanted to get to. You're stealing people's hope if you tell them they can get anything less than 8%.
Okay. So Rod, I don't even know where to start on this. There's a bunch of elements that we want to hit on. I will say this before we bust up Dave. I like the idea that hope is out there, and we agree that you should be able to spend more than $40,000 a year off of $1 million.
Yeah,
we absolutely agree with that. Okay. However, to suggest an 8% withdrawal rate is absolutely ludicrous. So first of all, and math doesn't work the way he's suggesting. Nobody gets the double-digit 12% return every single year. Like any dork and their dog understands that markets go up and down. So like just this idea alone that perpetually I can take 8% off of it, or even 6 or 7% necessarily, like maybe, but there's a big possibility that maybe not. And so the question is, are you willing to roll the dice, flip a coin and hope for the best, right?
Right. And what's amusing is that the proof he was giving was this year, and this was recorded in November of 2023. Okay. He says, this year you're up 10%. Well, that's 1 year. Well, guess what happened in 2022? You were down 25%. So if you're down 25 and you gain 10 of it back, you're not even near where you left off. And he's in a position where he's saying, well, I'm not even taking my money out yet, but the math works out. And I'm like, well, if you're not taking money out, then what you're saying is great. You have to stick out the bad times so you can get back to the good times. All that kind of stuff is great if you're not in retirement. But if you lost 25% and you took out 8%, you're going to have a huge return to overcome.
So you just described a concept called sequence of returns risk,
yes.
Right? Where that actually matters. So again, Dave's alone on this one, by the way. No other financial experts are suggesting that you should go out there and use an 8% withdrawal rate. In fact, we've talked about how the 4% withdrawal rate is even broken. So if the 4% withdrawal rate is creating too much risk on your portfolio, then certainly an 8% withdrawal rate is, very likely at least going to give you a high probability of crashing out entirely. So I love social proof. I want to give a little bit of it. For instance, Rod, Morningstar's director of personal finance, Christine Benz, notes that such a high withdrawal rate, 8%, is, she says, in quotes, deeply wrong and relies on this false assumption that stocks will consistently deliver double-digit returns. We're talking about Morningstar, who they are like the authority in mutual fund performance. So like, Dave, you're just putting people in a world of potential problems by suggesting that they should take that much money out of. I agree that there should be a better way. So like, we're in line on this point. There's got to be a better way than just taking 3.5% or 4% off my money and hoping for the best. But just saying, I'm going to ignore the risks that happen when I continue to increase that. The downs hurt more than the ups help when we're talking about the stock market. And when people understand the math around that concept, it becomes really clear. Well, guess what? The nerds in the basement that he's talking about, what he's actually talking about is people who have done real mathematics above this really bizarre line that this is what's crazy. Dave knows the markets don't do what he's saying. He knows that.
Well, the problem is he's running on a platform that he established at the end of the 90s. And so, yes, I think you're right. He knows that, but he can't afford to internalize it and apply it to what he's teaching, because it just is what he can't vary from what he's already said, apparently, right? Even though things have changed, things evolve. I just want to throw some numbers at what you just said, because you were saying the downs hurt more than the ups help. And so I gave the example of in 2022, the market was down 25%. Well, guess what? The only way to overcome the 25% down, so let's say I had 100,000 and now I have 75,000, right? Because I lost 25% of it. Well, if you look at the math on that, I have to have a 33% increase on that 75 to get back to 100.
So now I have 2 years of return. What's my average return on it?
0. I started
Did you
at
say
100.
You lost 25? No,
Well,
your average return is 8%.
Oh,
you
right.
Said you got a 33% return. You got a negative 25 and then a 33%. Your average is 8%, but you actually have no more money than what you started with.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. I was responding to my actual return was 0, but yes, you're absolutely right.
And finally, Dave is completely out of touch, because anytime this dude says like, well, this is what I do, it's like, okay, you're speaking to the general American people, and you are in the 0.0001% of all wealth with the net worth of 250 million or something like that. Again, great for him. I have no qualms with that. But the reality is, Dave, that most people aren't like you. And so while you going out and delivering this really dangerous message, it's not going to hurt you. It is going to hurt real people, if they take that advice and run with it, they're going to find that they're working at Walmart as a greeter because they're out of money. And that's a sad proposition.
And not only that, when do you run out of money? It's later on in the process. So now you're 85 years old trying to go find the job at Walmart as a greeter, right? So it's really, I agree, it's dangerous advice. And yet he just treats it like it's obvious.
He doubles down. Yeah. Like people who are being more cautious about it, who are giving advice that, they don't want people to blow up their retirement and end up in poverty for the last 15, 20 years of their lives. Those people are just pulling hope away. They're just so bad. But the reality is, unfortunately, Dave's going to be doing a lot worse than pulling hope away with that messaging. Okay, so that was fun.